My wife cheated on me with her boss, transferred $250, $0 from our joint account to a secret account, and now she's claiming half of everything, including the house, and threatening legal action. Can I actually lose everything over her betrayal? Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing all this down, but honestly my life took a turn I never saw coming. It started with small things, little hints that maybe my wife, Lisa, wasn't quite the person I thought she was. She'd always been a bit bitchy, quick to lie, and impossible to pin down about her whereabouts. But I brushed it off, telling myself she was stressed or busy with work. Turns out she was hiding a whole different life behind my back. Things changed in ways I couldn't ignore anymore. She started acting distant, more on her phone than usual, sneaking around when she thought I wasn't looking. At first, I thought she was just working late, or maybe she was stressed about her job. Lisa's a manager at a marketing firm. She's always been ambitious, always chasing the next promotion, but I never thought she'd cheat on me with her boss. That's what I found out, though. It all unraveled in the worst way. I was snooping, nothing unusual for me, honestly, just trying to understand why she was so secretive lately. I found a series of texts on her phone, messages that made my stomach turn. She was talking dirty, flirting, arranging meetups. The worst part, she was claiming she loved her boss, a guy named Mark, and how they were meant to be. That's when I saw the pictures, proof she'd been sleeping with him, probably for months. She'd even sent him pictures of herself half naked, claiming it was just for fun, but we all know what that means. Then I saw the transfer. A bank statement on her laptop, 250 transferred from our joint account into a secret account she'd set up. I couldn't believe it. That kind of money. It's not just for a vacation or some new clothes. That's serious, life-changing money. I knew she was hiding something, but I didn't realize it was this deep. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I'd always trusted her, and now here I was, staring at the evidence that she'd been lying to my face for months. I confronted her that night. I threw the evidence on the table and asked her what the hell was going on. Her reaction, she looked annoyed, like I was bothering her, and then she started with the typical lies. "You're overreacting," she snapped. "It's just sex, it doesn't mean anything. Mark's just a friend, and the money. I was investing in something, you don't understand business." Yeah, right, I could see through her bullshit. She was trying to play it off like I was the crazy one, but I was. I knew she'd been screwing her boss, stealing our money, and lying through her teeth. The worst part was her attitude. She's always been a bitch about everything, but now she was downright cruel. She told me I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her, that I was jealous and insecure. She even said I was lucky she still wanted to stay married, that she could leave me and take everything. Our house, our savings, everything, said I'd be nothing without her. I was numb. I'd never felt so betrayed, so humiliated. I started questioning everything, my judgment, my worth, if I'd missed the signs. How could I have been so blind? That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, feeling the anger boil inside me. She's been bitchy all her life, but this was a new level. To find out your wife, your partner, has been cheating, stealing your money, and lying every step of the way, it's like your whole world crumbles. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what yet. I just knew I couldn't let her get away with it. Not without a fight. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, and all I could think about was how deep I'd fallen. I had the evidence now, everything laid out in front of me, her texts, the bank transfer, her lies. But what do you do when the person you trusted most in the world turns out to be a complete stranger? I knew I couldn't just confront her again and hope she'd come clean. I needed a plan, and I needed to be smart about it. I started by digging into the bank accounts more. I wanted to understand exactly how much she'd taken and where it was going. Turns out that $250, $0 was just the tip of the iceberg. I found other transfers, smaller amounts, all funneled into different accounts. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. I also started looking into her phone logs and email exchanges. I needed to know if there was anyone else involved, some other guy, some accomplice. The last thing I wanted was to be again. While I was at it, I remembered some things she'd said in the past. Little comments, things she'd brushed off as jokes. She'd always been bitchy, but she'd also been dismissive about money, like it was nothing. But now I saw she'd been squirreling away cash, planning her escape or her new life with Mark. I felt betrayed all over again, but I knew I had to stay calm. I couldn't let her see me fall apart. I decided I needed legal advice. I reached out to a lawyer I knew, a guy named Steve who specialized in family law. I told him everything, the affair, the money, her threats to take half of everything, his advice. I might have a good case to keep the house and the money, especially since I could prove the money was stolen or transferred without my consent. But he also warned me about the legal battle. She'd probably threaten to take me to court, claim she's entitled to half because we're married. That's standard, he said, but I had to be prepared for a fight. Meanwhile, Lisa was acting even more bitchy. She started throwing around threats herself, saying I couldn't touch her money, that she'd sue me for everything I had if I tried to stop her. She was so confident, like she already had it all planned out. It was clear she thought she could manipulate the system, that her money and her affair gave her power. I started feeling a mix of rage and helplessness. How did she get to be so cold, so ruthless? I'd always known she could be a bitch, but this was next level. One thing I couldn't ignore, her attitude about the house. She kept saying she wanted equal rights, that she deserved half because she was married to me. The house, the savings, everything. I knew I had to act fast if I wanted to protect what was mine. I started gathering evidence, pictures of our bank statements, copies of her texts, even some recordings I'd secretly made. I was doing everything I could to cover my bases. The thing that hit me hardest, though, was the realization that she'd been lying about everything. She claimed her affair was just sex, that she loved me, that she never meant to hurt me. But now I saw the truth. She'd been planning her escape for months, probably using me as a cover. She's always been bitchy, manipulative, and selfish, but this was a new level of betrayal I wasn't sure I could come back from. I felt like I was losing my mind, trying to hold onto what little I had left. I knew I couldn't just walk away without fighting for what was rightfully mine, but I also knew I'd need to be smarter than her if I wanted to win. After spending the better part of a week gathering everything I could, bank records, texts, emails, even some hidden camera footage I managed to install, I realized I had enough to make a serious case. Lisa's attitude didn't change. She was still bitchy, still throwing accusations and threats, but I knew I couldn't let her keep pushing me around. That money, that house, everything we built, she thought she could just take it and run. Not on my watch. One night I sat her down in the living room, calm but firm. I told her I knew everything about the affair, the money, the lies. Her face twisted into that typical bitchy sneer she always wore when she was caught. She started lying again, saying she was just having fun, that Mark was just a business friend, and that I was overreacting. She even had the nerve to claim she'd been planning to tell me that it was all a mistake, a moment of weakness. Yeah, right. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're just jealous because Mark is better in bed than you ever were." That comment hit me like a punch. I'd always been a confident guy, but hearing her say that, knowing she'd been sleeping with her boss, it made my stomach churn. I wanted to rip her apart right there, but I kept my cool. Instead, I told her I'd been to see a lawyer, that I was prepared to fight for the house and the money. I warned her that her threats to take half wouldn't work if I had proof she'd been stealing from us. I told her I was going to make sure she didn't get away with this. Her response? She scoffed and said I didn't have a leg to stand on, that she'd destroy me if I tried to take her to court. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. The lies, the betrayal, her bitchy attitude, her threats. It was like my world was spinning out of control. I felt so angry, so hurt, but also oddly relieved that I finally knew the truth. At least now I had a shot at stopping her from walking away with everything. Still, I wondered how far she'd go. Would she really try to claim half of everything, even the money she stole? Would she take me to court and use that as leverage? The thought made me sick. In the days that followed, I started to put my plan into motion. I made Copies of all the evidence I had, including her texts, bank statements, and recordings. I also contacted a forensic accountant to help trace the money she transferred, see if I could prove she'd stolen it. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her bitchy act, acting like she was the victim, throwing tantrums and trying to gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. But I wasn't backing down. I knew I had to be strategic if I wanted to stop her from taking everything. One thing I couldn't ignore was her attitude about the house. She kept insisting she was entitled to half because we were married, even though I knew she'd been screwing her boss and stealing money behind my back. I started to realize she was trying to manipulate the legal system, to paint herself as the victim, to get her way. That made me even more determined. I reached out to my lawyer again, told him I wanted to file for an emergency injunction to freeze her assets and prevent her from selling or transferring anything else. The more I thought about it, the more I saw how manipulative she'd become. She's always been bitchy, but now she's downright ruthless. She's threatening to leave, to take the house, to claim half of everything, even though I know she's been lying, cheating, and stealing. I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I was ready to fight, to stand my ground. Whatever it took, I wasn't going to be the one who lost everything over her betrayal. I just hope I'm strong enough to see this through, because right now I feel like I'm fighting for my life. The day I filed the legal paperwork was a turning point. I knew Lisa would go berserk once she found out, but I couldn't care less anymore. I had all the evidence, and I was determined to protect what was left of my life. The court granted the emergency injunction, freezing her accounts and preventing her from transferring any more money. That was the first real win, and honestly, it felt like a huge weight off my shoulders. But Lisa didn't take it lying down. Oh no, she went full bitch mode. She started calling me names, yelling at me, accusing me of trying to ruin her. Her voice was shrill, full of venom, as she accused me of being paranoid and controlling. She kept insisting she was entitled to half of everything because we were married, even though she'd been screwing her boss and stealing from us. She told me I was jealous, that I was possessive, and that she'd make sure I paid for trying to take her down. That's when I knew she was dangerous. She'd stop at nothing to get her way. Meanwhile, I kept pushing forward with the legal side of things. I hired a forensic accountant to dig into her financials more thoroughly. We uncovered some shocking things, more transfers, hidden accounts, and even some shell companies she'd set up to hide the money. I couldn't believe how deep she'd gone. I started to realize she'd been planning this for months, maybe years. She was ruthless, manipulative, and totally cold-hearted. All those bitchy comments she'd made over the years about how she deserved everything, how she was smarter than me. I saw now that she'd been scheming all along. The more I learned, the angrier I got. I started questioning everything, my judgment, my trust, even my own worth. How did I miss all of this? How could I have been so blind? I'd always thought she was just a bitchy wife, but now I saw her as a calculated thief and liar. It made me sick to my stomach. I kept telling myself I had to stay strong, that I had to fight for what's mine. I couldn't let her take away my house, my savings, everything we'd worked for. I knew I had to be smarter, more strategic if I wanted to win this battle. One night, I decided I had enough of her threats and her manipulations. I sat her down again, this time more serious. I told her I knew about her affair, about the money she'd stolen, and about her plans to leave with everything. I told her I was prepared to go to court to fight her for every penny. I warned her that I had enough evidence to prevent her from claiming half of the house, and that I'd do everything in my power to keep what's rightfully mine. Her response: she started crying, fake tears of course, and called me heartless. She said I was ruining her life, that she'd never hurt me if I just let her go. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew her game. She's always been a bitchy, manipulative woman, but now she's dangerous. She's got nothing left but her lies and her threats. I could see through her act. She's trying to break me, to make me doubt myself. But I refused to let her. I'd come too far. I'd fought too hard. I knew she'd try to spin the story to make herself look innocent, but I had the proof. I was ready to go all the way, to fight her in court if I had to. I'd protect what's mine, even if it meant tearing her world apart. I just hope I can handle what's coming next, because I know she won't go down without a fight. The court date finally came, and I knew this was the moment everything would either fall into place or blow up in my face. I had spent days preparing, poring over every piece of evidence, making sure I had everything documented perfectly. Lisa, of course, was a mess. Bitchy, manipulative, trying to spin her lies even more. She showed up in her typical diva mode, acting like she was the victim, claiming I was trying to ruin her life. Her attitude was disgusting, acting entitled, bitchy, and completely out of control. When the judge called us into the courtroom, I felt my heart pounding in my chest. I presented all the evidence, bank statements, the texts, the recordings, the forensic reports. I explained how she'd transferred a large sum of money without my consent, how she'd been sleeping with her boss, and how she'd been planning to take everything from me. I could see her trying to interrupt, trying to deny everything, but the evidence was irrefutable. She was caught red-handed. Her lawyer tried to argue that she was entitled to half because we were married, but I had the law on my side. I explained how the money was stolen, how she'd been using our shared assets for her own benefit, and how her affair was a betrayal that voided her claims. I also brought up her threats to leave with the house and the money, showing how she'd been planning this for months. The judge listened carefully, and after a tense session, he ruled in my favor. The judge ordered her to return the stolen money, and he put a temporary restraining order on her from transferring any more assets. He also made it clear that she had no claim to the house, because I could prove she'd been planning to leave it behind, using the affair and the stolen money as leverage. I felt relief, like finally I was getting some justice, but I also knew this was just the beginning. She was furious, screaming at the top of her lungs as she was escorted out of the courtroom, calling me every name in the book. After the court hearing, I sat in my car for a moment, trying to process everything. I was exhausted, physically and emotionally. But I also felt a strange sense of victory. I'd fought hard and I'd won the first round. Still, I knew Lisa's bitchy attitude wouldn't change overnight. She was angry, humiliated, and probably plotting her next move. I'd have to stay sharp, keep my guard up, and make sure she didn't find a way to come back and take more than she deserved. That night, I couldn't sleep again. The whole ordeal had taken a massive toll on me, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized how much trust I'd lost, how much I'd been betrayed, but I also learned a lot about myself. About resilience, about not letting a bitchy wife ruin me, and about the importance of protecting what's yours. I know Lisa won't go down quietly, but I'm ready for whatever comes next. I've fought for what's rightfully mine, and I won't let her take it all without a fight. The emotional scars are deep, but I'm stronger now, more determined than ever to rebuild my life without her bullshit dragging me down. In the aftermath of everything, I've had a lot of time to reflect. The court battle, the betrayal, the stolen money, none of it was easy to process. Honestly, I still feel the sting of her bitchy attitude, the lies, and the fact that someone I trusted so deeply could turn out to be so ruthless. But amid all that chaos, I've learned something crucial. I can survive this. I can rebuild my life, even after being completely by someone I thought loved me. I've started to focus on myself again. The house is now legally mine, and I've managed to recover most of the stolen money through legal channels. It's not the same as before, but it's enough to get by. I've cut ties with Lisa completely. No contact, no drama. The emotional scars will take time to heal, but I know I'm better off without her bitchy manipulations hanging over my head. Looking back, I realize how much I underestimated her. I always thought she was ambitious, maybe a little bitchy, but I never saw the extent of her ruthlessness. Her lying, her cheating, her stealing. She's a master manipulator, and I was just too blind to see it. Now I see her for what she truly is, a selfish, vindictive woman who thought she could screw over everyone and get away with it. But I also see my strength. I fought hard and I won. That's more than I could have hoped for when I first found out. If there's one thing I want to say to anyone reading this, it's this: trust is fragile. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where your partner betrays you this deeply, don't hesitate to fight for what's yours. Protect yourself, gather evidence, don't let her manipulate the system, and stay strong. Because at the end of the day, you have to be your own best advocate. This experience has changed me. I'm more cautious now, more aware of the warning signs, but I also know I'm capable of overcoming even the worst betrayals. I've learned to stand up for myself, to not let a bitchy wife or anyone else make me feel small. Life goes on. I'll rebuild, I'll move forward, and I'll never let someone like Lisa get the best of me again. Trust is a fragile thing, but resilience is even stronger. And that's what I'm holding on to now.